Hi, this is Coach Sandy Nightpaver,
And I'm Coach Sage Canaday.
and we are the founders of Sage Running, and together we created all the Sage Running training plans found on sagerunning.com.
Yeah, and it's a coaching website for any surface, any distance. It's also kind of a hashtag for the coaching business because we've coached runners that have gone 5K, 10K, half marathon, all the way up to ultra marathon, 100-mile distance on the trails and mountains, but also on the roads and track.
So today we're just going to do a quick talk on a lot of our common questions that we get about our training plans. And so are you ready to jump right into it?
Let's jump right in, yeah.
Okay, so the first question is basically what to do if you get a marathon or one of our plans at 16 weeks, but you only have 13 or 14 weeks to train for the race. And I'll start off. So it depends on where your fitness level is already at. If you already feel like you have a good base and you don't need the first couple of weeks, just take them out. Now, if you don't feel like you have a good base and you really feel like you need those first couple of weeks, my suggestion would be to maybe, like, once you're feeling fit again, to look at the plan and think about your strengths and what week of the plan already suits your strength and you don't really think you need. So focus on the weeks that are addressing your weaknesses and what you feel like you need to work on for the week, and then take out the week that you already feel like suits your strengths.
Yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of individual variables at play with this type of question, but like Sandy said, it does depend on your strengths and weaknesses and what kind of base or what kind of training you've been doing really that whole year and the last couple months heading into the plan. We usually have on our website, we have prerequisites before plans, and we say, okay, you need to be at least running, 40 miles a week or 50 miles a week, all easy paced to be able to handle the volume. Because the plans are very progressive in nature, and they do start off the first couple weeks kind of getting your bearings, but then after that, you're starting to get into some really specific workouts, and so you can't really pick and choose everything. But that being said, we're all about having some flexibility. People get sick. They have little aches and pains. Sometimes you have to take a day off because you have to work or travel unexpectedly. So there is you don't have to follow the plan exactly to a T, even though that's how it was designed. And that kind of segues probably into another question. But
yeah, this is kind of on a similar note. The question would be, say you're doing something like 100K, and in the middle of the training plan, you're signing up for a 50K. So what do you do in that situation? And I've actually answered this for a lot of people already who just messaged me, and my thought is after a 50K, like, you have to take that recovery seriously. So maybe the week after the 50K, maybe you don't run for most of the week or only a few days, and you take those runs super easy. And the following week, so the second week out from running the 50K, this is where you really have to know yourself and be honest about how you're feeling, because some people, they might be able to jump right back into the training plan where they left off, or you might have to take another week super, super easy and not do a lot of speed work, or just cut the mileage and the speed work all a bit short. So maybe the week was scheduled for 50 miles or 80 kilometers, and maybe you scale that back down to by like 25 to 50% less volume, and including the volume of the speed workouts.
yeah, it's common question. Even people they want to race a half marathon tune-up race before their marathon. Kind of the same sort of thing. You have to be really careful with the recovery, and you have to be honest with yourself. Like, hey, did I race this race really hard? It's going to take me a while to recover. There's going to be residual fatigue for not just 1 week, but maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that kind of effort. That being said, if your goals are that key long distance race at the end of the plan and you want to do kind of a tune-up race, you could have A and B goals, a B level race, you would say, where you're using the race as a training run, as a training effort. But it's going to be a super hard workout regardless, because you might get a lot of adrenaline and you might end up racing it too hard. And so you do have to be really careful and flexible with the recovery in the weeks after that longer effort. But you could definitely get yourself in good shape doing that, and it would have to be replacing maybe a long run workout, or in the case of a half marathon race in a marathon buildup, it would be replacing a really, really hard specific type of long run type of workout. So you'd be swapping out maybe like a 20-mile long run or a 16-mile long run that was really hard, with this 13-mile race where you did a warm-up and a cool down and you raced it maybe a little faster than marathon goal pace or something like that. But for the ultras, the recovery is even more important, because racing a 50K is no joke, and you're training for 100K, you can't be overtrained.
Right. My advice would be to don't set expectations of what your training should look like the next or that following week or two. Because as soon as you start setting expectations for yourself, you're just going to start doing runs no matter how you're feeling. You could be exhausted or injured and just plow through, and that's just going to end up hurting you for your goal race.
Yeah, good questions.
Yeah. So this is kind of not really similar, but kind of in a similar theme is if you get injured somewhere in the middle of the plan, how do you come back? Do you start from zero, or do you just kind of jump back in where you left off? And, this is another question. It really depends on the person, what the injury was. Because, if you're out for a long time, you might have to start back from day one or even take a couple weeks to build base. Now, if it was something like you just needed a couple days of rest, you might be able to jump in on the day that you had originally planned. So maybe you had to take off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you feel good enough to run Thursday. You might be able to, if Thursday's an easy run, you might be able to do it, but you might have to cut the volume again. And same with kind of what I was saying earlier with another questions, like you might have to just reduce the volume of the mileage and the speed workouts.
Yeah, and same thing with maybe getting illness, depending on if it's a cold or the full-blown flu, which could knock you out for a week or two, and you have to be careful with the rushing back in, because you might be coughing, or you might have all sorts of muscle soreness. You're at risk for overreaching or overstraining yourself, so you're at risk for overtraining. And if it's only 3 or 4 days, you don't need to worry about losing too much fitness. You have to worry more about getting back into the swing of things without getting hurt. And same thing with a small niggle or pain. If it's a little tendonitis and you could reduce the swelling after taking a couple days off, you have to slowly get back into it. Whereas if it's a really big major injury, you might be out for weeks and you might have to kind of start over from scratch. But depending on your race goals and all the training you've done leading up to that point, and when that injury or illness happens in the training program, sometimes you could view it as an extended taper, and maybe you could still do the race. But you have to be extra cautious and be honest with yourself again with your health.
Yeah, and just keep in mind that missing a couple workouts or runs, it's not going to totally derail your training. Yeah, you might have a couple of days of adjusting back into training, but it's not going to kill you. And I've actually seen a lot of people actually improve a couple weeks after an injury because they finally took the rest that their body needed.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah. And so I think the one more question to end on today was somebody asked about weightlifting and how to incorporate that into the plan so you're not hurting any of your runs. And so I can tell you what we both typically tend to do. There are other approaches to this, but what we typically do is if we have a speed workout, we typically do our heavy weight training that the day of the speed workout, just later in the day, or pretty soon after the workout, because that way you're keeping your hard days hard, and then you can take your easy days super easy. Now, I have heard other, programs, they just kind of say fit in the weight training where you can, and you can try that, see what works with you. But if you lift heavy and then you realize that where you schedule it impacted your workout, then that's not right for you. Now, for lighter core work sessions, those, I pretty much do those whenever I have time for it, and I find that pretty much works for most people.
Yeah, I mean, we keep it pretty simple, but doing the things like the hex bar deadlifts where you're using your legs, trying to activate the glutes and, engaging the hamstrings and calves, you're lifting with your legs. You don't want to be tiring yourself out before the speed workout, because then you're going to be running with sloppy form and you're more likely to injure yourself. So that's why we always do it right after the harder day or the harder speed workout, to keep the hard day hard, and then have usually 2 recovery days. Whereas, like Sandy said, with the core exercises, I mean, I'm doing just some basic sit-ups and push-ups and things like that, or I even lift weights a little bit with my arms. I could do that any day. It makes my arms a little sore, but it's not going to impact my speed workout like when I'm lifting with my legs. So we kind of alternate. I kind of alternate that during the course of the week, but definitely doing the hex bar deadlifts after a hard session, usually within an hour or two after the hard session, actually. Because then you're going to be sore anyway. You might as well be sore.
Yeah, and something I tell all the athletes I coach personally is it's okay to experiment. Just experimenting for a few days or a couple of weeks. That's fine. See what works best for you. And if you're ready, can I ask one more question? This actually wasn't a question recently asked, but it's been asked a lot in the past. And it's basically like if you have something that comes up in the middle of the week and you have to change your runs around, how do you do that? And so my number one tip for people is don't have speed workouts back to back, or a speed workout and maybe a long run back to back. If it's medium, easy long run, sometimes people would do it. But my advice is to always at least have one easy day in between. If it's shorter workouts, if it's really hard, a pretty hard workout or long workout, you probably need 2 to 3 easy days in between. So with that in mind, kind of schedule the week around that idea. But yeah, of course you can always change runs around. Like we know our rest days, our bigger mileage days aren't always going to work for people's schedule. And it's better that you work around that so you're getting enough sleep and you're enjoying other parts of your life so you don't get drained out from the training.
Yeah, especially on some of the more advanced plans, you have 2 runs in a day, and sometimes you wouldn't be able to pull off a morning run and an evening run a lot of times maybe. But yeah, if you are really losing some training days, losing some time, you might have to skip a workout here and there, and that's going to be okay because the plans are designed where, not any single workout is the most important. They're all kind of important. So if you miss, you have 2 quality workouts maybe in a week, an interval session and like a tempo run or something like that. Maybe you miss the interval session, but you still get in that tempo run. And how your structure changes exactly is going to depend on what days you're missing. But usually if you're training for like a marathon or an ultra, it's probably preferable that you get in a long run effort on the weekend, or maybe not on the weekend if you're busy, but we usually try to schedule those long runs or the super long time consuming workouts on weekend days where people might have more time to train because they're not going to the office and they don't have to work. So that's kind of the whole idea. But yeah, you definitely have to be flexible, and you'll have to make some personal decisions, but we've designed the plans with that in mind.
Do you have any other questions you can think of that people have asked you in the past?
No, I think we covered a lot there.
All right, I think that's it for this little video and podcast, and we really can't thank you enough. Like, your support is what makes Sage Running possible. So thank you so much for everyone who purchased a training plan or just followed along with our videos or even our social media channels. Thank you.
Yeah, we have the at Sage Running on Twitter and Instagram, as well as a Sage Running Facebook page. And then we also, through our personal accounts, Sandy's at Running Wild to Believe, Running Wild on YouTube. I'm at VO2 Max Productions. And of course, we have this up on the podcast, episode number 28 here, getting back more into the podcasts, as well as the YouTube channel here on Sage Running. So thanks so much for your support, and stay tuned for more.